Hello everyone, this is Ben from GP Adventures. Last time we talked about the sandbox, what it is, how to organize it, what type of elements go into the prep, and how this is supposed to work together in actual play. And today I would like to address another interesting aspect of the sandbox or open world type of campaign. Often when people talk about role-playing games, they come up with a common criticism, which is, uh, well, I would love to play or run a role playing game, but I don't have enough time, and it's extremely hard to get our schedules to work with my friends, and in the end, we don't play, right? Well, the sandbox has a very interesting way of dealing with that kind of issue. And essentially, it goes like this: the way the game is played, ideally, you will have one session equals one expedition to and back from the dungeon. What that means is that, in theory, the game starts at the village. Then the party, after bartering or selling items or leveling up or whatever, will go through the wilderness, explore a part of the dungeon they haven't explored yet, getting back on their map, we haven't explored that area, what's there, or down those set of stairs, and so on, right? And at some point, usually by consensus, when the session has gone on for a while, or when when the party hits an obstacle that they can't overcome immediately, they will back off, or they hit treasure, significant treasure. They will back off from the dungeon and go back to the village. Now, this is very important, and it works very well for the campaign, and it explains a lot of things that you will find in the original game and the advanced game in particular. And that is that this setup of one session, one expedition helps to not require every player to be there every week. That means that in between sessions, the roster of players that comes to your table can change, maybe entirely. Okay? When that happens, you don't have to have all your schedules fitting together. There might be only 2 players showing one week, and then suddenly the other week, that's 8. And since the game begins and ends at the village, you can have characters coming and going, and assuming that they're off camera, doing other things during this particular expedition or whatever, which then can be role played aside in other sessions and so on. That's why you have this advice. There's a very good advice that's you cannot have a significant campaign without keeping track of time. So, and that in those kind of setups, that is actually very important because that tells you exactly where are the characters that are not there this week. Can I run a session about what they're doing aside of the other party that went to the dungeon this week, and so on and so forth, right? So that's one aspect of this, but it also plugs into something called the stable of characters, right? So when you start running the game, you will have players creating their first characters, right? Or their prime characters. These characters will come and go, right? Go on expeditions, level up, right? But since not all players have to come or show up every week, the discrepancies in levels between characters will grow, right? And you will soon end up with some characters that are higher levels than others. Adding to this, you can have one player starting to play multiple characters in the game. Let's say that one player has a level 9 character. This week, only the players that have level 3, 5 characters show up, and he's the only one with a level 9 characters. Instead of playing the level 9 and overshadowing all the other characters in the game, the DM could tell him, hey, why don't you play your henchman? We'll just say that's your a new character in your stable of characters. And that's how this happens, right? You start having multiple characters at different levels of play. And that's what constitutes the stable of characters. Now, in such a context, things like level limits, suddenly for the humans, suddenly make a lot more sense, right? What that means is that you're going to have some main characters which are going to be usually single class humans, and your demi humans at some point will hit their level limit. That does not necessarily mean that these characters are retired or they stop playing. That means that they become set in at a certain level of experience, right? So when you have all the level 7s showing up to play, right? Then you have your magic user 14th level that you can play, or you would be grossly overpowered compared to the others. But you can say, hey, I have my level 7 dwarf that reached its level limits. I haven't played him for 5 weeks. Why not play him with the others, right? Now, you're still benefiting from the gains of treasure or whatever you manage to acquire as you explore the world. You're just not getting experience anymore. But you're still, if you find a flying carpet, that's still a great find for your character, right? And I think that too often this is seen as a flaw or a bad thing. But there's actually a big advantage in having a character set, you know, arriving at a specific level of experience and staying there. And you'll notice that with the way level limits work in the first edition game, usually those level limits are reached at just a sweet spot when your character is powerful but not super powerful. Well, just that sweet, what's called the sweet spot of D&D play, where you have options in terms of what spells you can cast, what things you can do, multiple attacks with your weapons if you have weapon specialization and stuff like that. But you're not so powerful that you belong into like the League of Extraordinary Adventurers, and start going, in a big cosmic kingdom crumbling kind of scale. Uh, so this is actually an advantage in these guys, right? And you'll find that a lot of these rules in the Dungeon Master's Guide or other tomes like this that seemingly at first make no sense. When you're starting to play a sandbox, that you start with a cast of characters, that players can change every week, that you start having multiple characters to play at different levels of experience, then suddenly these rules will make much more sense, right? And that's a big aspect and advantage and fun aspect of the sandbox. And that's it. We are pretty much done here, and I just hope that more people give it a try. You know, I don't know for you, but personally, I tend to look at playstyles and role playing games as ice cream flavors. You know, uh, we don't have to just say well, you know, there's this ice cream I like, vanilla, and I just want vanilla, and any other ice creams are the wrong kind of ice cream, right? Uh, in my experience, lots of gamers just love to vary games and playstyles. Personally, I wouldn't run a World of Darkness game the same way I would run an original Dungeons and Dragons game. And the same goes for different flavors of Dungeons and Dragons, right? A third edition campaign might not feel the same or play the same as an original Dungeons and Dragons campaign. The nature of the game is such that being the world premiere role-playing game and having such a large audience out there, that the Dungeons and Dragons has to address different play styles and different ways to do things. Otherwise, it can't speak to that many different people who are playing role-playing games, each for their own reasons. So the same way, the sandbox or the open world is just one of these things, right? One of these flavors or one of these playstyles out there. Uh, this isn't to say that is like the playstyle to rule them all. I just happen to prefer this playstyle personally. That's the playstyle that speaks the most to me, right? But gamers don't shouldn't think of it as a kind of orthodoxy, right? Okay. So I hope that you find all this interesting. I'm doing this little series of videos in between writing sessions because that just clears my mind. And I didn't see that many videos that attempted to explain those kind of things to gamers. So I just thought, hey, why not, right? I'm just as good as anyone, like I'm a gamer like you, and so if I can share something, and hopefully, if anyone out there, as an idea to run a campaign like that, it would be great. Anyway, we're gonna go on with this later on, and I'm gonna get back to the dungeon exploration as well at a later point. Uh, Now, yes, it's time for me to get back to work, so we'll talk again later. Bye bye.